3 creepy true late-night work stories that will haunt you. Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Tonight we delve into the shadows to explore unsettling true stories that keep you up at night. Our first story takes us to the desolate outskirts of a forgotten town, where the silence of night is broken only by the creaking of rusted metal and the distant howl of stray dogs. The atmosphere is thick with an eerie stillness, making the place feel like a ghost town. This is where our viewer, a security guard named Mark, found himself facing the inexplicable, a situation that would test his courage and resolve. Mark was tasked with patrolling a sprawling abandoned factory, a place steeped in a palpable sense of unease. The factory's vastness and emptiness only added to the sense of foreboding. The factory had been deserted for decades, its windows boarded up, its machinery gathering dust, a testament to a bygone era. The silence within its walls was almost deafening. As Mark made his rounds, his heavy footsteps echoing through the empty halls, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Every shadow seemed to move, and every sound seemed amplified. The air grew thick with an oppressive stillness, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. It was as if the building itself was alive, watching his every move. He rounded a corner, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, and that's when he heard it. A soft, almost inaudible whisper coming from the far end of the hallway. It was a sound that sent chills down his spine. His heart pounded in his chest as he cautiously approached the source of the sound, his every sense on high alert. The whispering grew louder, more insistent. But as he reached the spot, the whispering ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that was somehow more unnerving. The sudden quiet was almost deafening. Just as Mark was about to dismiss it as a trick of his imagination, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. A fleeting shadow darting behind a row of lockers. It was quick, almost too quick to be real. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he whipped around, his flashlight beam frantically searching for the source of the movement. His breath came in short, sharp gasps, but there was nothing there. The lockers stood silent and still, as if mocking his fear. The emptiness was almost palpable. The lockers stood silent and still, as if mocking his fear. The sense of being watched never left him. Night after night, Mark experienced these unsettling events. Each encounter left him more unnerved than the last. Whispers that sent chills down his spine, shadows that danced at the edge of his vision, and an overwhelming sense of dread that clung to him like a shroud. It was as if the building was trying to communicate with him. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Mark decided to delve into the history of the abandoned factory. He needed to understand what was happening. He spent hours poring over old newspaper articles and local archives, searching for any clue that could explain the strange phenomena he was witnessing. The more he read, the more he realized how little he knew. And then he stumbled upon a chilling discovery. It was a piece of information that would change everything. Decades earlier, the factory had been the scene of a gruesome crime. The details were horrifying. A night watchman had been brutally murdered, his body found mutilated beyond recognition. The brutality of the crime was shocking. The case remained unsolved, shrouded in mystery. The lack of closure only added to the building's eerie atmosphere. As Mark read the chilling details of the murder, a cold realization washed over him. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together. He was no longer simply dealing with strange noises and shadows. He was confronting the lingering darkness of a horrific past. The realization was both terrifying and enlightening. Our next tale takes us from the desolate outskirts to the heart of a bustling city, where the hum of urban life masks a chilling secret hidden within the sterile walls of a corporate office building. This is a place where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, and the mundane becomes a canvas for the inexplicable. Our viewer, a night janitor named Anna, shared her bone-chilling encounter. an experience that left her questioning her sanity and the very nature of reality. Anna's routine was simple, almost monotonous, a series of tasks that rarely deviated. Every night she would clean the sprawling office floors long after the executives had gone home, her world reduced to the soft hum of the cleaning equipment and the fluorescent lights reflecting off empty desks. It was a job that required little thought, allowing her mind to wander. One night, however, the silence of the office was broken by an unexpected sound, a sound that would change everything. It was a faint whisper, barely audible above the whirring of her vacuum cleaner, yet distinct enough to catch her attention. She paused, listening intently, her heart pounding in her chest, each beat echoing in the stillness. The whisper seemed to be coming from one of the corner offices, its door slightly ajar, inviting yet foreboding. Anna cautiously approached the office, her hand trembling as she pushed the door open, the creak of the hinges sounding unnaturally loud. The room was dark, except for the faint glow of the city lights filtering through the blinds, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Hello?" she called out, her voice barely a whisper. Silence greeted her, thick and oppressive. She took a tentative step inside, her eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness, every nerve on edge. And that's when she heard it again, clearer this time. A soft, mournful sigh, as if someone was in pain, echoing through the still air. It seemed to originate from the far end of the office, near a large oak desk, a place she rarely ventured. As Anna slowly made her way towards the desk, she noticed something strange, something that made her skin crawl. The air grew noticeably colder, and a wave of goosebumps erupted on her arms, a physical manifestation of her growing dread. Reaching the desk, she froze, her blood turning to ice, her breath caught in her throat. There, lying on the floor, was a single white rose, pristine and untouched. Its petals were fresh, vibrant, completely out of place in the sterile environment, a stark contrast to the cold, lifeless surroundings. Panic surged through Anna as she frantically searched the office, her mind racing to make sense of the situation, but she was alone, utterly alone. Shaken to her core, Anna rushed to finish her work, eager to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the office, her every instinct screaming at her to leave. But as the nights turned into weeks, the strange occurrences continued, each one more unsettling than the last. Whispers seemed to follow her down hallways. Faint laughter echoed from empty boardrooms, and the scent of roses, always roses, lingered in the air, haunting her every step. Driven to her wits' end, Anna confided in the security guard she often saw during her shifts, hoping for some explanation. To her surprise, the guard's face turned pale as she recounted her experiences, his eyes widening in shock. "That office," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "it's been empty for years. A place abandoned and forgotten, yet not entirely devoid of presence." Chapter 3. The Warehouse Horror. Our final story unfolds in the cavernous depths of a massive warehouse. A place where shadows dance with the flickering lights and the silence is broken only by the scuttling of unseen creatures. The atmosphere is thick with an eerie tension, as if the very walls are whispering secrets. This is where our viewer, a night shift worker named Miguel, experienced a series of terrifying events that left an indelible mark on his psyche, events that would haunt him long after he left the warehouse. Miguel's job was simple but solitary, a task that required him to be alone for hours on end. He worked the graveyard shift, responsible for logging inventory and making sure everything was in its place, a routine that had become second nature to him. The warehouse was a labyrinth of towering shelves stacked high with boxes, its vastness amplified by the dim lighting and the echoing silence that seemed to stretch on forever. One particularly eerie night, as Miguel was making his rounds, he noticed something strange, something that sent a chill down his spine. A stack of boxes near the loading dock, boxes he could have sworn he had just checked, were in disarray, as if someone had been there, moving things around. It was as if someone had been there, moving things around, disrupting the order he had meticulously maintained. He quickly scanned the area, his heart pounding in his chest, the sound echoing in his ears. But there was no one in sight, just the oppressive silence and the shadows that seemed to mock him. Shrugging it off as a mistake, Miguel rearranged the boxes and continued his rounds, trying to shake off the unease that clung to him. However, as the night wore on, the strange occurrences continued, each one more unsettling than the last. He would hear the distinct sound of footsteps approaching, only to turn and find himself alone, the silence mocking his fear. Lights flickered erratically, casting dancing shadows that seemed to writhe and contort before his eyes, creating grotesque shapes that played tricks on his mind. And once he could have sworn he saw a figure, tall and shadowy, lurking at the edge of his vision, a specter that vanished as quickly as it appeared. But when he turned to confront it, it was gone, leaving him questioning his own sanity. Fear gnawed at the edges of Miguel's mind, whispering doubts and fueling his anxieties, making him question everything he thought he knew. He had always dismissed ghost stories and supernatural tales as mere superstition, the stuff of overactive imaginations. But now, alone in the oppressive darkness of the warehouse, he wasn't so sure, the line between reality and the supernatural blurring. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Miguel decided to seek out the truth behind the warehouse's unsettling atmosphere, determined to uncover the source of his fear. He approached one of the older workers, a grizzled veteran who had seen it all during his decades on the job, hoping for some insight. The old man listened intently as Miguel recounted his experiences, his weathered face etched with a mixture of concern and grim understanding, as if he had heard it all before. "This warehouse," he finally said, his voice low and gravelly, "it holds a dark past, a history that many would prefer to forget. Years ago there was a terrible accident, an event that left a permanent scar on the warehouse. A young worker, barely a man, was crushed beneath a mountain of falling boxes, a tragedy that shook everyone to their core. They say his spirit never left, forever trapped within these walls, haunting the place where he met his untimely end." A cold shiver ran down Miguel's spine as he realized the truth in the old man's words, the weight of the past pressing down on him. Thank you for joining us tonight, my friends, as we explored the dark corners of the workplace and the unsettling stories that emerge from the shadows. If you enjoyed these tales of the unexplained, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling content. And if you have a creepy work story of your own that you'd like to share, drop it in the comments below. Your story might just be featured in our next video.